I have a confession to make. The controller is back. That's a nicer way of saying the control freak, or which has a bad connotation, but the controlling part of me is back. And as we are coming out of COVID and going back into the reality of our life as dentists, I can see and feel that the over controlling part of me is coming back out. And you all know what I'm talking about. Many of us have that control freak or control over controlling part of us. I have spoken to about 20 or more dentists over this period of transition back into work. And it's unbelievable that even within our own profession, dentists are handling this differently. I've spoken to some colleagues who say, I'm going to take another week and I'm going to slowly get back into work. And then I've spoken to other dentists who were like, I need to get back to work like yesterday. So it's not, it's unbelievable that we all handle this differently. But most of us have a certain part of us, the driven part that I call the over controller, that comes out when we're stressed and anxious, particularly more when we're stressed and anxious. And I can tell you for myself, over the past couple of weeks, I felt that part of me come back out. How do I know? Tension in the muscles, sort of a little shoulder back pain is back. How do I know? Because my heart has hardened a little bit. I've become a little bit more business, a little choppy, a little to-do list and what's next. And so those are my signals to me that over-controlling part of me is coming back. And I want you to take a peek into your own life and see what are the things that you might be doing now that are giving you hints that the over-controlling part of you is back. And oftentimes, stress induces that over-controller to come back. And so it never goes away, but that incessant thinking is our protective mechanism to try to control something that's not in our control. COVID was not in our control. Coming out of it is not in our control. But we put that control in place to feel safe, to feel that there's a balance. But I want to urge you is that it's important to keep that over controller in check. Because if you could have predicted what was going to happen, for example, in COVID, you couldn't. You couldn't have predicted it. No one could. Can you predict exactly how going back to work is going to look like and what your patients are going to think and what your staff is going to do? You can't. You can't predict everything. But we want to constantly control and predict what's going to happen. If you go back and look at your life from the time that you were little, could you have predicted everything that happened to you, who you ended up being with, relationships that came and went, your children, lack of children? You could not have predicted everything that's going to happen. But our brain wants to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes that over controlling and predicting has a negative bias to it. And so I know that when I think about going back to work, there's a lot of little negative biases that come in. Oh, I'm not going to be able to see all my patients. Oh, some of my patients are going to be angry. Or, oh, patients are going to get upset that I can't see them fast enough. Those thoughts are just thoughts. And 63 or 64 videos ago, you remember that we started talking about, this is out of our control. What are we going to do? And actually, we're in the same situation again. So life is not about knowing and having the certainty. It's about acknowledging what is, being in the present, and being able to name it. So the fact that I can name that the controller or control freak part of me is back in action, that allows me to then ground again. And just knowing that part of me is back allows me to name it, to tame it. So I have to admit, I have not been meditating for the past week. And that's my big alarm cue that I'm kind of in another dimension. Like I'm on Pluto right now. So to bring myself back, to ground ourselves, don't be hard on yourself if you, like me, have been out in another sort of dimension, okay? Let's bring ourselves back. And remember that the goodness that exists. Remember that we're in the same boat. Remember that softness in your heart that existed kind of when you were mid-COVID, analyzing your life in a calmer state or whatever, making puzzles, making sourdough bread. That seems like a world away right now. But I think it's really, really important to ground ourselves. So with a nice deep breath, and if you want to try the hand breathing meditation that we did before, where we put up our hand and you trace it, Or do you remember the box breathing where we inhale up, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Anything you can do to drop down into the body is going to help being too bobblehead and too in the mind. It's important to think, but not all the time. So let's give ourselves permission to acknowledge that there's parts of us that might be coming up. We name them, and then we drop in and we remind ourselves of how important it is. Connect with nature, connect with your loved ones, soften your heart, and then we will be in this together and get through it. Thank you so much.